Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel where once again it's time to delve into that PAL Saturn library and review another game. Today's game is the 3D weapon-based fighter Last Bronx. So the story is pretty simplistic. Gangs are battling and warfare is all over Tokyo, and the leaders of each gang have been sent invitations to participate in a tournament to see which gang comes out on top to have control of the city. Obviously the tournament has been organised secretly, and it says in the instruction manual this is a battle for honour, not fame. So once the pretty cool video is out the way, you'll hit up the main menu where you realise you've got your arcade mode, your versus mode, Saturn mode, survival mode, time attack mode, watch mode, movies, portraits, aerial combo practice mode, free practice mode, and options. And you're probably overloaded thinking, wow. Heading to options, it's pretty straightforward. Difficulty setting, match points, times, extra health for 2-player battles. Selecting your mode, quick or normal, key configuration, rankings, audio, mono or stereo, and of course you can test all the BGM and audio if you choose to. Now the main bulk of gameplay is Saturn mode. Basically it's an arcade mode with a video sequence at the end. We've got 8 characters to choose from: Yuzaku, Joe, Tommy, Nagi, Zenoko, Yoko, Kurosawa, and Lisa. So there's only 8 characters on the game. It's probably not as many as I would have liked, if I'm perfectly honest. Now arcade mode and Saturn mode on this game are very, very similar. Basically arcade mode takes you through in a specific order to fight all 8 characters, and you get a time and you get a high score. That is it. Saturn mode very similar. You fight the characters in a different order though, and at the very end you get a small video sequence, and by small I mean 6 or 7 seconds long actually, to end the sequence of fights, and it's very similar to arcade mode. Now time attack mode is also very similar, apart from you must do 2 rounds. You must win 2 rounds per fight. You can obviously with arcade mode and Saturn mode you can set it onto 1 round to be victorious, which is what I do. Time attack mode very similar, it just gives you the time that it took you to beat everybody at the end. Survival mode is a case of beating as many people as you can and you're given a score at the end. It's pretty straightforward, it's pretty self-explanatory. Versus mode obviously fighting one against a friend. Your aerial practice mode, which is trying to practice doing aerial combos, and free practice mode, pretty straightforward. It's just practicing to learn the moves, learn the controls, learn all of your characters' special moves as well. In the looks department then, Last Bronx is pretty good. I think it runs in the Saturn's high resolution mode if I remember correctly. The best thing about the graphics is probably the backgrounds. They are actually pretty impressive. The character models themselves aren't too bad, probably not quite as good as Virtua Fighter 2's, as some characters do seem a little blocky in comparison to others, but overall I think graphically the game is okay. One thing I will point out is you'll notice at the edge of the screens polygons sort of like disappearing from the scenery. That's a bit frustrating. You may also get in replays a lot of polygons disappearing, shadows flashing on and off. Kind of got the opinion when I was playing this game that it's been rushed maybe to get it out, and it's not quite been perfected as well as it could have been in the looks department. That being said, it's a better looking game than Toshinden that I reviewed before, but in comparison to the best looking fighter on the system, probably Virtua Fighter 2, it's probably not quite as good as that. So how does it play? Well, it probably plays how you expect it to play. A is block, B is punch, C is kick, X is punch plus guard together, Y is kick plus guard together, Z is punch plus kick together, R is special, and L is punch plus kick plus guard together. It plays pretty similar to Virtua Fighter 2 and Fighting Vipers, those kind of fighting games with your block, your punch, And your kick, I can't really fault the way it plays. It's not a bad playing game by any stretch of the imagination. It's not quite as responsive as Virtua Fighter 2, and that, for me, drags it down a little bit. It plays better than Toshinden, there's no doubt about it. There's loads more moves to learn. It's really similar to Virtua Fighter 2 in that each character's got plenty of moves to execute, combos to pull off. Although I did find when you're trying to go for combos, the computer just simply ducks most of the time, or blocks them, and you tend not to be able to hit them. It's really difficult to hit full combos on the CPU, I found. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Maybe if you played it yourself at home and you're better at the game than me, maybe you can, but I just find the computer seems to evade those combos really easily, and a lot of the time when you try and block their attacks, they manage to then quickly execute grabs on you, which is a bit frustrating in all honesty. Thankfully though, unlike Toshinden, when you're playing the game and your characters fall over and they're going down and rolling around, the camera resets really quickly, whereas Toshinden you would continually attack and your character would be at the wrong angle to attack. Thankfully, Last Bronx doesn't have any of that, and 99% of the time when you jump up to hit them and they're rolling around, you'll hit them and you'll line up pretty good. So I can't fault the camera work in the game, it is actually very good. Now, the musical score for a fighting game is always quite important, I think. It always gets you kind of pumped up and involved in all the battles, and unfortunately Last Bronx isn't particularly strong in that area. There aren't really any memorable tracks whatsoever. Even Toshinden that I reviewed previously had a few decent tracks, although they didn't really fit the game. They're pretty good to listen to. Last Bronx doesn't really have that, and if you were comparing it against the soundtrack, say, of Virtua Fighter or Virtua Fighter 2, then it definitely falls flat on its face, and it just kind of makes the battles feel a little bit dull, if I'm honest. It doesn't get you involved, doesn't draw you in, it doesn't actually make you feel excited every time you begin a new fight. So all in all, the soundtrack isn't quite what I would have hoped for. Sound effects wise in the game, I can't really fault that. I think everything's suitably suitable, if I'm honest. It's not outstanding, it's not terrible, everything sounds okay. All the hits and the sound effects that the characters make, they all sound okay. One downside I might say is that nobody's been given any English voice translations, whereas even Toshinden did. This game doesn't. All the text is Japanese, and you just have English subtitles over the top when there's speech, which is a little bit of a shame. It's not a game breaker, but it just shows that perhaps not quite as much effort was put into the non-Japanese versions, if I should put it that way. So the lifespan of the game, the all-important one alongside gameplay, and it's tough really, because on the main menu you think Last Bronx has got plenty of stuff to do, but basically arcade mode, Saturn mode and time attack mode are so similar that it seems pointless having them all there really. You know, what's the point in playing arcade mode when you can play Saturn mode when you get the ending video at the end? It kind of makes arcade mode redundant. You also are timed in arcade mode and Saturn mode anyway, so it kind of makes time attack mode redundant. Obviously having survival mode is there, that's quite a good one to play. If you've got friends to play with, you can take it in turns to see who gets the most enemies defeated, which is always good. Another thing you might think is that it's only got 8 characters, so it's a little bit disappointing. It came out in the later half of 1997 over here, and having only 8 characters isn't that great. There is one unlockable character, but again, that's only one, and there are other unlockable things. You can unlock each character's ending video by completing Saturn mode, and then you can go back in the movie theatre and watch them if you choose to. There is also artwork to unlock, which you can also watch via the option on the main menu, but this is apparently much harder to unlock. Now, I've been told you have to beat the game on all the difficulties with all the characters to unlock all the artwork. Now, you've got to really love this game to want to do that. I just don't have that love for the game myself. I'm sure some people do, but overall, taking a look at this game, it looks pretty good, it plays reasonably good, it sounds okay, it just isn't good enough in all of those areas when you're comparing it to other fighters. And obviously I played a certain PlayStation 1 weapon-based combat game straight after playing this because I wanted something to compare it to, and I forgot how awesome that particular game was in comparison to this, and it just knocks this game into next week, making you realise that Last Bronx doesn't cut the mustard now, and it probably didn't quite cut the mustard then. I checked out some reviews, and I'll put those on the screen now. Obviously, some places only gave it 4 out of 10, which I felt was a little bit rough, but other places gave it really high scores, and I think it's really a matter of opinion, this game. I don't have a love for this game. I just don't feel connected to it enough. I kind of feel like it needed a bit more time to be polished in areas, and it could have done with having a bit more story integrated into the Saturn mode, if I'm honest. It doesn't really feel like there's any emotion tied in with the game, whereas obviously when I spoke about Toshinden before in a previous review, it had all the story in between each fight. Although it was bland, although it was very primitive, it was there and it gave you more of a feeling towards the characters. Last Bronx simply doesn't have it, so you end up feeling it's a little bit empty at the end of the day. I think that's my best way of summarizing it. It just doesn't quite feel like a full experience, if that makes sense, and it just leaves me feeling like I don't really want to play it anymore. Do your opinions of Last Bronx differ to mine? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, I will see you soon for another Saturn review. Goodbye for now.
Akirame na.